Welcome to Innovate, presents Entrepreneurs in Tech. Today, we're delighted to have our guest, Christopher Chin, who is the leadership communication coach of The Hidden Speaker. I like the name, The Hidden Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us today. And for our listeners who might not be familiar with you and viewers, could you please introduce yourself and give us a bit of insights on your background and expertise before we really dive into it?
Absolutely. And thank you so much again, Bob, for having me.
My pleasure.
On. I started my journey as a kid wanting to tell stories as my adult job one day. And I wanted to do that originally through music. So I was a film composer for a bit, doing short films and advertising. And of course, making money in the arts is difficult. Ultimately, I hit a roadblock and I said, I need to find some more stable employment. But I still wanted to tell those stories. I eventually went into tech, and the way I told stories there was, after analyzing the data, what stories can we find within that data to tell companies about so they can improve their processes, improve the business, and get more profit. Then, at this point in my career, I've brought those two worlds together. Now I teach others, founders, entrepreneurs, companies, executives, how to tell good stories of their own. And this is a combination of both the music side and the data side. I help companies, for example, based on all the data they've collected, find what is interesting about this, why does it matter, what can we do about it, and using my music expertise saying, how can we make this engaging for people to listen to? So my work primarily now is focused on essentially public speaking coaching and data communication training.
Interesting. So you focus on data communication training. What is that like kind of entails when you say data communication training?
Yeah. For example, there's one founder I work with now, and his company involves research using AI technology, and they try to understand how can they improve companies in terms of the employee experience. What I do is I say, given all this data you've collected, how can I turn that into a story to tell people about? So let's say you found that segment A of your employees, they are unhappy about X. Well, then what story can I tell the bosses? So they say, okay, if they're unhappy about that, what new plans can we put into place to resolve that? How can we make people happier? Any other problem that arises, what story can I tell to wrap that in and say, this is how we can address that too?
Interesting. Let's go back a bit of your early career, and you were in sound design.
Yeah.
And how did you pretty much, when you're in sound design, you're not gonna talk much. You're quiet. You rely
That's
on
right.
these, not on this, on these.
Exactly.
Yes, on your ears and a good set of headphones, and yes, and a room with no noise on it to focus. How did that kind of influence your communication skill, and you decided to take that path?
What I found in sound design is there is nearly limitless amount of sounds you can create. Really, your
Yes.
imagination is the only thing stopping you.
Correct.
And this, for a creative person, can be incredibly liberating, but it can also be very frustrating because there's no right answer, is there? What I found nice about the data and tech world that I later went into was there is a right answer. It's in the data. And all I'm doing is making that more clear for people. So in many ways, I find the work I do now easier because I have constraints on my creativity.
Should I say that the shift from acoustic engineering kind of influenced your data visualization? Your visualization of data.
I would say so, and I'd also say it influences my communication. For example,
Yes.
when I studied acoustic engineering, you learn how there is essentially three parts through which sound travels. So first there's the producer of the sound, then there's the channel that it goes through, and then there's the receiver. And something wrong can happen at each of those points. So either when you're communicating, maybe you're not communicating as clearly as you could. In the middle, maybe in the room, it's really noisy and people can't hear you. And at the end, maybe the other person's not in the right mindset to receive your message. Something could go wrong at all those points. All we can control is pretty much what we say. And that's what I help people with. How do you make sure your message is as crystal clear as possible? So given the best circumstances down the line, it can be received.
I'm noticing as I'm speaking to you, everything you say in a way, in a form of a story. And it seemed like some of the best communicators and salespeople who are able to tell a story in order to connect with their clients or with others.
Yeah, absolutely. I think something I find a lot in the data tech world I'm in,
Uh-huh.
we rely on those numbers to do the talking for us, but that's very cold, and people don't connect with numbers. They really connect with stories because stories are about people. And I tell tech founders all the time in particular, the numbers can't speak for themselves. And if you throw more numbers at people, they're not going to be more persuaded. You have to really bring in you. Why did you found this company? What makes you so passionate about it? How are you changing people's lives? And then people will start to listen.
So you're mixing facts with, I wouldn't say emotions. You're mixing facts with, what's the best word? Please, I'm trying to find
Yeah.
like when you yes when you're going. Let's say an entrepreneur, somebody who's starting a startup, a tech startup, and he has the numbers, he has the tech knowledge, but he doesn't have the story communication still to get more investors or to get other co-founders with him on board to carry this company to the next level. And what kind of how do you train him to get him to say, okay, this is how do you need this is the kind of train of thought or your mindset you need to have when you start communicating with others, that non-tech person.
Yeah, this is a very common thing I see, especially
Yeah.
with technical founders.
Yes.
And what I say to them is the science shows you need to bring in that emotion, let's say,
Yeah.
because our brain makes decisions in two ways. The first way is very intuitive. So constantly our brain is scanning the environment. Is there any threat based on pattern recognition, based on everything we've seen in our past? That's the registration of
So
our
it is facts with emotions, as I said
Yes.
in the beginning. Okay, good.
It
Okay.
would be both.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. Okay.
Because you need to bring in that emotional, intuitive component for people to feel something. And on top of that, you can then add the analytical side. So, in
Yeah.
addition to our brain scanning, if something's weird, then we start thinking more about it. And that's where we apply the facts and statistics. But you need to have that baseline of emotion for people to connect to begin with. So, I tell founders, yes, the numbers are important. Yes, you need that numbers mindset when you get your results, when you make your product. But when you talk to people, that requires a different language that respects how we think. And we think with both facts and emotions.
You kind of remind me a bit. I don't like to compare. Obviously, you're the modern version of anything. You're young, you're smart, you have your own way. But Tony Robbins, he is one of the greatest speakers out there, I think, and of all time. And I never met him. Oh, well, no, I met him once, but I never sat down or interviewed with him. Yeah, I met him once, actually. I met him in Vegas.
Cool.
At the hotel lobby in the Wynn Hotel. I was just walking, and I looked to my right, and I seen this guy leaning against the wall, tall guy. And the closer I got, I'm like, oh my God, this is Tony Robbins. Very casual, just talking
Wow.
to two guys. Yes, really nice guy. I just introduced myself, and he made sure that I repeated my name twice to him. I guess this is his way of remembering people. Yes, absolutely. So, but I know when he speaks, just from based on some of the videos I see on YouTube and other social media platforms, that he really uses exactly that kind of scientific way to connect and story and emotions. And not a lot of speakers do that. And you're one of the few people I really came across that kind of, your style is very intriguing and very unique, because I think this is probably you're very successful and you're going to succeed more because you bring in something that a bit more than when just somebody motivating. It's not just about motivating people. It's actually, you're right, bringing facts, emotions, and science to it to really kind of put the whole thing together.
Absolutely. Thank you. For that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you probably read a lot of books. You obviously have a high education, all of that. But a lot of things will contribute to such kind of style of communicating and helping others. And I love that. Yes, very interesting. So let's talk about a lot of the entrepreneurs who come across a lot of obstacles these days, and let's talk about entrepreneurship and what does it mean these days. I see a lot of young people think school is really a waste of time, which is, I don't think so. I don't think so at all, not even a bit. I say, if you do have the chance, if you have the possibility and you're fortunate enough to go to school and to continue to get a higher education, absolutely do it. That's my message always. And I'll say, why? Because you're going to gain things that you're not going to gain anywhere else. And number two, you develop the network, the skill, to understand the market and whatever obviously field or you specialized in, whatever you studied, whether it's in tech or medical or whatever it is, and you develop the network and you understand the need out there. If you ever decide to go on your own, say, you know what, I think there's a problem and there's a solution for it, because a lot of the entrepreneurs these days, they come up with an idea. Oh, I got an idea, just like this.
Yeah.
Okay, is this idea based on a problem or based on solving something? Or is it really going to revolutionize the industry that you're thinking about? But again, I'm going to bring the mic back to you because it's not about me, it's about you. Please.
I agree completely with what you said. And the reason that I think the way I do about public speaking, where it needs facts and emotions, is because of my schooling. It is not from anything else besides what I learned in school.
Amazing.
And I recommend what you said to others. You might specialize in one field. Let's say you're a computer science major. But school, especially university, will expose you to so many other domains that can benefit your way of thinking. For me, I went to school, I learned computer science, but I also learned about literature. I learned about music. I learned about the humanities. And the reason I combine facts and emotions is because I have that technical side, but also the humanities side. For example, in university, I learned about not just how to code, but how to think and how to question, how to have a healthy degree of skepticism. And I think all those things together make you a more informed citizen in society.
Wow, well put together. Love it. Love the way you put it. Absolutely. This is definitely should be a header. I like it very much. You started Hidden Speaker. Let's talk about that. What's behind it? What motivated you? What got you to start Hidden Speaker? I want to know about the whole idea came with it and what drove you first to it, and then what's the vision behind it and the goal?
Absolutely. I think Tony Robbins actually has a similar concept. But the reason I started this is because I believe every person has a hidden speaker in themselves.
Yes.
No matter how shy you are, you can be a great, confident speaker if you put in the work to learn speaking just like any technical skill you know and have mastered. I went on this journey because I was a hidden speaker in the sense that in school, I was very shy originally. I didn't like volunteering my voice in class. I didn't like teachers calling on me. And I was so scared to let other people hear what I had to think because I thought it wasn't good enough.
Amazing.
Then I reached a point in my career where I saw myself hitting this ceiling. I said, I can do really good technical work, but my bosses aren't promoting me. What's going on with that? And I realized it's because I'm not communicating well. I'm not visible enough for people to say, this guy can be a leader. And I realized this was something I needed to work on. So years and years and a lot of mentorship. And I reached the point where I was confident in my own voice. And I said, now I want to help other people find their own hidden speaker and get that confidence that will elevate their career.
That's from what? Book reading?
For me, it was a combination of books and also mentors that I met along the way. I had one, for example, in high school. It was my chemistry teacher, and she pulled me aside one day and said, Chris, you do phenomenal report work for your labs in chemistry. I think it's one of the best in the class, but nobody knows that you can be so great. And the only way to show that to people is if you communicate it. So during class, try to say at least one thing during each class session, and then maybe extend that to two. Over time, by applying that principle, pushing myself a little bit, I gained more confidence in my speaking. But the greatest benefit for me was learning to record myself as well. So with this podcast right now, it's recorded. I would watch every instance of myself on recording to see what can I do better the next time. Can my voice be better? Can my body language be better? Can my storytelling be better? And incrementally improving it to the point where I did reach that confidence.
So you're always critiquing yourself.
Absolutely. Even now, even to this day.
Wow, amazing. After all of this. Can you tell us some of the or share with us, with our audience and myself also? I mean, I would love to know some of the success or interesting or intriguing clients and stories that you came across through the Hidden Speaker.
Yeah, I was just meeting with a client the other day, and he told me before working with me, He was very unsure of myself. He reminded me so much of how I was in high school. And he said after the program, and we still have a few sessions left, but at this point in the program, he feels a lot more confident in his voice, and not just professionally, but also in his personal life. He says now he can have conversations with friends, with his spouse, with full confidence instead of feeling he needs to pull back and not be as assertive as he could be. He knows what makes him sound confident in terms of tone of voice. He knows how fast he should talk to sound confident and people listen to him. It's all these small things that add up to building confidence, and that's what I hope to teach for every client that I work with.
Wow, very interesting. I mean, yes, this is a hidden speaker kind of idea. It's pretty interesting, helping others. You give also you give speeches, I'm sure, and you you in seminars and all of that. What you think some of the some of the common questions that a lot of that when you do live seminars, on stage or let's say you do a Zoom seminar, what is the common kind of questions that a lot of the people that who inspired by your journey, by your message, by your vision that you get? What is the common things?
One question I get a lot is, how do you feel less anxious about public speaking? Because I do it all the time now, but I didn't always used to be so confident in being able to do that. And I tell them usually 3 tips around that. One is, your audience is on your side. Nobody really wants you to fail when you're public speaking. This is a scary thing for most of the population to do public speaking. To see you up there is inspiring. People want to see you do a good job, so lean into that energy. The second tip would be, if you make a mistake, it's okay. We all will make mistakes. I make at least one mistake in every talk, but I keep going. I don't dwell on it and say, oh, geez, I messed that up. Can we start all over again? No, I give people a good continuous experience at like the captain of a ship. And the third tip I give is that nerves and excitement are really 2 sides of the same coin, in the sense that when you're nervous or when you're excited, it's really the same butterfly in the stomach's feeling. So if you can imagine the last time you were about to go on a really nice vacation, you're excited, the butterflies in the stomach. And then the last time that you did something really nerve-wracking, same butterflies in the stomach. But the story you tell yourself is different each time. And that's why we feel nervous versus excited. So I encourage people and challenge them. The next time you feel the butterflies in the stomach, which side of the coin do you want to be on? Do you want to tell yourself the story that this is going to be horrible, I'm going to mess up? Or do you want to tell yourself the story that you're going to do a great job and visualize that?
Do you think also not able to communicate better, or to have the courage to kind of really stand up and communicate, do the, like you might, some people might imagine it, but they might not have the courage to stand up and say it like I imagine. But when it comes to it, they freeze. And would that also apply from holding people back from going forward, pursuing their dreams, their ambition, whether to have their own thing going or to get a better position in the company, or with certain things, kind of the communication also plays a big part of them holding him back. Also mentally, it's like putting a parameter, putting should I say a wall around it, like boundaries, like, okay, I cannot, no, this is my life, that's what I'm supposed to do, this is it, this is how I look, this is how I feel, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, it all plays a big part, I guess.
Yeah. I was in that boat where communication was a wall around me because I didn't have the courage to take action. My first business was a failure, and that was as a composer, because I wanted to write music for Hollywood films. I wanted to do all these great things, but I didn't have the courage to do the networking required to make that happen. I thought my work would speak for itself. So I didn't go out there and meet people and do all the things that were needed to make this a successful business because I was afraid. Now in this business, the reason why this has been more of a success is because I push myself to be a little bit more uncomfortable every day. I have that as my life motto, because if I just stay comfortable with what I know and how I am, then I will never change and I'll never grow. But if I push myself to be a little more uncomfortable every day, I'll be on the edges of my comfort zone, and be able to do more as time goes on. I can't imagine how things will be in 10 years. I hope that it will be even better at that point.
So, what's your message for some of the young entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs or want to change their life?
Yeah.
Somebody wants to change their life. They're not happy with their current situation. What's your message to them? How would somebody come out of this shell? I'm unhappy. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm stuck. And I'm sure you heard the term, being in a mental jail.
Yeah.
And we create these mental jails, obviously. These kind of self-created, and we cannot get out of them. And some people, it literally ends their life. I don't mean to be negative on the show, but I've seen it. So I had people that I work with, a good friend of mine, actually. So would somebody come out of that?
I'd say that relationships really matter, no matter what stage of life that you're in. For me, I was stuck in that mental jail for a really long time. I was working in tech for many years, and I wanted to start my own business again at some point, but I didn't have the courage to do it. I was stuck and I was stuck. I was going through the same routine every single day, happy with my steady paycheck. I couldn't bear to take that risk. And people in my life, though, continually gave me the motivation that I needed. So my wife, for example, would tell me all the time, hey, there's no time like the present. You should really consider going back out there and chasing that dream that you have. And I listened to that. I parked it away. I wasn't ready. But then there came a point in my life where things fell apart a little bit. I really reached a low point, and I said, well, there really is no time like the present. Maybe I should go for this. And the reason I was able to was because I had that network of people, those relationships that supported me. So I'd recommend to any entrepreneur that if you really want to go for that dream of yours, you can't do it alone.
So would you say that, your surroundings, the people that you involve with, it really has an effect on you, an effect on the way you think and going forward?
Yeah. I think there's a saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And it's good for us to consider, who do we spend the most time with? Who is influencing the way we think? Maybe it's time to change groups. Maybe we can find a more inspirational crowd that can push us to do things that we're uncomfortable with and push us towards those dreams.
Amazing. It's funny that somebody said to me, I had him on the show, and they said, people ask me, wow, a lot of great ideas and all this, you must be the smartest one in the room. They said, no, I don't want to be the smartest one. I want to be the one that listens to the other smart people in the room. But yes, I guess so. Your surroundings, it's really dictate how you're behaving a lot of time, and how your action are and going forward. Let's talk about also your specialty in data communication, and and that's really kind of a very interesting thing that you do. Let's talk about obviously you do a lot of coaching in that arena, and mostly is it you specialize in tech or other other arenas or other fields beside data and tech when it comes to.
I'd say my specialty is within this realm, data tech, though I have branched out to others more recently, such as more environmental spaces, some more human rights spaces as well. Ooh. But this has been my playground primarily because it's the world that I worked in for so long and I know it like the back of my hand.
You said human rights, correct? Can we back up to that?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. That's very, very, very touchy subject and very important subject of our life. Yes.
I was just chatting the other day with some storytellers, video creators that I might be collaborating with, and their focus is putting a spotlight on some of the most important issues of today. So they do some documentary work, for example, environmentalism, the climate crisis, and also human rights concerns such as affordable housing. And the key for that is you need both facts and emotions. You need to feature people's stories. Why should we care about these important issues? But also put in the facts that are important that give those claims credibility. When you have both in a video medium, for example, that is incredibly powerful to moving people to action.
Yeah, you're giving me ideas. As far as, bringing emotions to everything you do on a story. You tell people, give them examples, show them why. You know, to me, it's like an approach is one of the most successful marketing. You know, brands out there like Nike, it never advertised a sneaker, and they have God, what, thousands of sneakers. If you go to their website, it's not never about the sneaker. It's never about the sneaker. It's about the lifestyle, the how it makes you feel wearing that sneaker, and what would make you want to do and change your life and image and the way you look, the way you dress, and the way you get up early in the morning, whether you want to run, lift weights, or do yoga, or play basketball, or whatever it is. But I see your style. It's really very interesting and intriguing. You know, I think you are on your way to become extremely successful, my friend, in your field. Very nice. Yes. The more I listen to you, the more I see your style of doing this. So you mentioned something also. You said beside human rights, you mentioned something about also environment. And do you get involved in any of that, or any renewable energies or sustainability of new energy, or not really? You just focus on the things that you mentioned.
Interestingly, when I started in tech,
Yes.
I wanted to focus on environmentalism. That was my passion, to make a difference in that arena.
Yeah.
And one of my projects involved trying to detect endangered whale calls in the ocean. So there are some microphones under the ocean constantly recording, and I created some algorithms that could say, okay, I detected an endangered whale. Now we can maybe take some action to protect that area. Yeah. That was a huge portion of my data work before, but I encountered the issue that if it's just facts and it's just a research paper, it's not going to really move people to action. And that's why I really began to focus on this communication side. So one day, when I return to that space, maybe I can make more of a difference.
Listen, I need to know your secret, first of all. You went from acoustic engineer, sound engineer, excuse me, to... I mean, we're talking about whales.
Yeah.
We're talking about human rights. We're talking about data, science, and what? Tell me, this is definitely, a paragraph that it's probably going to take you more than a minute to go through it. How do you? Obviously, you said when I was much younger, and you had that wall, that jail, that mentioned jail, and that boundary around you, and obviously, once you took it down, sky's the limit.
Yes. Yes.
Please elaborate. People don't want to hear me. They want to hear you.
There is a Chinese philosophy that I subscribe to now that I didn't before, and it's called Wu Wei. And it means... Wu Wei, yeah. The literal translation, I believe, is
Please do send me the link for that.
Yeah,
please do.
Sure thing.
Yes.
And I believe the literal translation is non-forcing. And the best analogy I can use to describe this is rowing versus sailing. When you're rowing, you are rowing typically against the current. You're going in the direction that you want. But sometimes it's good to consider the sailing approach, which is you're not trying to go in a specific direction and forcing it, but you're going with the wind and you're kind of changing the sails to get to your destination, but in a way that respects your environment and what's going on around you. For me, I never had a concrete idea about what I wanted to do, but I listened to the cues that were happening around me. At one point, I said, I'm not making as much money as I'd like, so I pivoted in a different direction. At one point, I said, I'm not working on something I feel can have as much impact as I'd like, so I moved in a different direction. And that explains all the different pivots in my career. I'm trying to find this thing where I can be feeling my best and also feel like I'm making a difference in other people's lives. So that principle of Wu Wei is one that has helped me go through all those life transitions and feel good about it.
Amazing. So there's an old say, you know what they say, just let whatever floats your boat. Yeah. So it's like whatever. So you're saying you are a big believer, not always is the right direction when you go against the current, as you said in rowing, So it's sometimes let the wind blow.
Yeah.
Let it just,
as an example.
I really kind of need, if we can dig a bit into it. It's very intriguing.
When I was trying to be a composer, I was rowing. I was trying to force something that wasn't the right fit at the time. Maybe I wasn't talented enough to make it. Maybe I wasn't social enough to network well.
Maybe not experienced.
Maybe not experienced enough. I was very, very young. So it wasn't the right time. So it doesn't make sense then to keep rowing against the current. I had to let it go. Then I reached this point in my life. I started this business about 2 years ago now. And I think now is where the wind was catching the right place in the sail. And it was time for me to make this come true because now I'm older. I have more experience. I have this communication confidence. And now I really believe in this mission. With all those factors combined, now I don't have to fight the current anymore.
Amazing. I like it. I really like it. So you feel now you're going with the current.
Yes.
You're going, and it came naturally. It wasn't forced. But it took a minute. It took a while to learn it and to understand it. Okay. Let's speak about how people could overcome speaking anxiety.
Yeah.
I have that. I'm not going to lie. I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, how do you do it? Just breathe, take a step back, breathe, slow, don't talk too much sometimes. Talking less is better. Please, this is and I do come across it a lot.
I do too. Before every talk I give, I always feel a bit nervous. And I've told myself that it's okay. That if I'm not feeling nervous, it means I probably don't care enough about it. If I'm feeling nervous, it means it's challenging enough that I want to do well. So I say, okay, it's just my body helping me out. It's saying, hey, you got to prepare yourself for this important thing. Then I listen to my bodily cues and try to address one each time. So if I feel myself really breathing rapidly, then I'll try to take those slower breaths. If I find myself kind of shaking my legs or hands too much, then I say, okay, I need to take a step back, find a quiet place to decompress. So I try to see, okay, what is my body telling me I need to do to feel more calm? And then I'll do those things. So I recommend to anyone who has that anxiety, including myself, to develop a good pre-talk or pre-event routine for yourself. Go through that every single time to put yourself in a state where you can be your best.
It's funny for me. I love doing interviews.
Yeah.
But once in a while or sometime, I do get people say, hey, I want to get you on my podcast. I want to get you on my show. I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And, I try to book it as far as possible because for me, I get nervous and I'm like, okay, what if I'm going to say the wrong thing? What if they're going to ask me things that I don't know what I'm going to talk about? I'm going to sound a little idiotic, and I'm going to just ramble, too. So I do get that a lot. I'm not going to be shy about it. I'm saying it for the first time here on the show. Yes. My own podcast.
It's so good to admit that and be vulnerable about it.
Yes.
I was actually just talking to a friend the other day and they said they never want to do podcasts because they're afraid of exactly the same things you said. They're afraid they'll say the wrong thing. It's recorded forever on the internet.
Yes.
And I said, well, that in many senses is like the mental jail that we talked about earlier. If you trap yourself there, you'll never do it. You'll never know if it could be good or not. Maybe you'll change someone's life if you go on that podcast and they listen to you. So the first step is really that self-awareness that you said.
So listen. So then, as people say, just do it. It doesn't matter. We're all going to make mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes from your own mistakes, from your own faults. So just do it. It doesn't matter. Just, is it that type of kind of attitude where, like, it's fine. You're going to make a mistake, but learn from it. So, use that mistake as a learning curve. And it's like, okay, I got it. So I should do this the next time. And just go with it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Get rid of that fear and just do it.
Exactly. When I started posting on social media, I was terrified because I thought people are going to hate this. Who am I to speak on these topics? I'm just at this point in my career, there are people who are experts who are much older than I am. What is my place? And I really didn't want to do videos on LinkedIn. I hated seeing myself. I said, why would people want to see that too? And then I hit the point where I said, okay, I just have to do it because if I never just do it, I'm never going to overcome that inertia. And I'm also never going to be able to improve. My first one's going to be bad. I'm okay with that. Then by video 100, imagine how much better it could be. So I do tell people, just do it and be okay with messing up a little bit. Everybody does.
Amazing. It's, I'll share something with you on the show.
Yeah.
I've been reluctant to take flying classes. I always wanted to fly. Yeah. Love it. I think it's just feel free. And I took few, but not enough. You really have to stick to it. You know, it's like you ride a, well, as this, yeah, maybe a wrong example. If you ride a bike once, you'll never forget it. It's a bit different. You have to understand certain things and you have to do it. It's to kind of resonate in your mind. It sticks there, like it sinks in. And I'm always afraid of the certain lingos a lot of the pilots use. I'm like, oh, how do they learn this kind of lingo? What, I have to study it? I have to, you know, I'm always, and this is the only part that kind of hold me back from going and taking lessons, that I'm going to embarrass myself. You know, there's a certain, you know, like a certain slang, but it's not a slang. There's certain lingo they use between the communication between the pilot and the tower. And these, you know, short words of a lot of the things, whether it's the runway, the wind, the all of these things, and it always holds me back because I'm afraid. That's it. That's the fear I have, and I kind of put it in my head. I don't think I'd be able to do it because of that.
Have you stopped entirely since, or do you have plans to restart?
I honestly, I do. I
Okay.
really want to do it. I want to do it,
Great.
and I'm like, you know, I'll do it next month, maybe. But I do want to do it. Yes, I do. I think to me, it's freedom.
Yeah.
You know, the joy of sitting in a small plane and you're able to fly it, and it's absolutely beautiful. Now, I know how birds feel. It's
Yeah.
absolutely yes.
Wow. I hope you do continue. It's something I'd love to learn too at some
You
point
do?
in my life. Yeah.
Oh my
I'd
God,
love
maybe we should check with each other a year
Yes.
from now.
Yes, absolutely.
You got the license or no? I should ask.
No,
you ask
I have
me.
no license
No, I'm
whatsoever.
just saying a year from now.
Oh, yes, yes.
Absolutely. Listen, I really enjoyed this amazing conversation. I know I had a bunch of questions, and I said, you know, I'm going to ditch them out, and I'm just going to have a real conversation with you because you have so much to give, and your style is amazing, and I love the way how you put things together. You know, I would love to continue this, but you know, I'm sure I don't want to, kind of go over the time because I don't want to bore our viewers and listeners. But definitely, an interview with you is definitely not boring or any means to that. You know, I interviewed you're the fourth speaker, I would say, I would get on the show on Entrepreneurs in Tech. And everyone is different. Your style is definitely different. And I learn from each one I speak to and everybody's stories and how they overcome it. And I tell you, this is one of the reasons I continue to do this. I don't do this for money. I don't make money from this. To me, it's just really communicating with others, learning from others. Doesn't matter the age or what. It just so much the experience, the resilience they have, the stories that they tell. It's always motivating. And it always gives me a reason to keep going. It's like, what's my excuse? You know, every day I complain to myself.
Yeah.
But and I hear such somebody like you, and I hear their story, and you're doing it with a big smile and you're genuine, and you're happy, and it's like, you know what? Get out of it. Just snap out of it. Snap out of it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Snap out of it, and just keep going forward. You know, nobody. You want it? Go after it. Give us an advice. First, we need to know two things: what's next, or what's the future for Christopher or Chris, and the hidden speaker, and and what do you have on the agenda for this year and next year?
Yeah.
Besides being a
hoping
pilot, the pilot license.
Besides the pilot license. I would love to continue expanding my business. I gave a TEDx talk about a month ago, but I want to make speaking more part of my business pie.
Yeah.
I want to do more trainings for companies. I want to do more public speaking coaching for founders. I think in general, I just want to do more of what I'm already doing, and because it gives me such joy to be able to help people in this way.
You know, a quick question. You said founders, obviously, and people and CEOs and people with money and success and accolades. Not to put you down, but way bigger than you. How do you feel when you coach somebody who's a founder who has about 50 or 100 employees, has a company worth 100 million or $1 billion, and you're sitting on the phone with them or on Skype or just face to face, and you're literally advising him, coaching him. How does that make you feel?
Incredibly grateful to be in that room, because I know that for me, and like you, I am open to learning from anyone, regardless of age, regardless of experience, because I think everybody has something to share that I can benefit from.
Correct.
Not everybody shares that mentality, though. Some people would prefer to learn from people more experienced or older or wiser. So the fact that I'm in that room with them, that they're open to learning from me, is something that I would be incredibly grateful for.
Unbelievable. A quick advice before we say goodbye to you. And, obviously it was a pleasure. To a lot of the young entrepreneurs, I know we talked a lot about them, but give us a simple advice that would kind of get somebody what to look for and how to go forward. That's who kind of carving their own, or they're having a hard time, I would say. Somebody like yourself who say, you know what, I do have similar story to Christopher's story, to Christopher Chin's story from the Hidden Speaker. I have a wall around me. I want to change my life. I want to move forward. I don't know how. Simple advice that kind of helped him to take the first step forward towards the light, towards the positive path.
I'd say most of us don't know the power of our own voice. I certainly went through most of my life not knowing how powerful my own voice could be. I believe that I just needed to keep going and keep going. My work would speak for itself. But when you learn the power of your own voice to change how people feel, to make people feel better, to make people see the world a different way, that's a magical thing. If you start putting yourself out there, it may be a scary thing, but you might positively impact just one person at first, and that'll multiply to tens and thousands and millions one day. And it all starts with taking that step to put your voice out there in the world, because you do have something important to share. People just don't know it yet.
Well, Christopher, I want to say thank you. Really, thank you first for taking the time. I know you're busy, and to schedule this and to grace us with your presence on Entrepreneurs in Tech. It's really important, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners on this show, they'll definitely be intrigued and find everything you said extremely insightful and motivating also. Yes, and informative. Yeah. I want to say thank you again for joining us at Entrepreneurs in Tech. Be sure to follow us on social. And until next time, keep innovating, stay curious, and think always outside of the box. And as Chris said, it's all about taking the first step. So don't be afraid, just take the first step. And then the second one will follow. Thanks again.
Thanks so much, Bob.
My pleasure. Oh, don't forget to send me the link, please. I really want to. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share. Innovate presents Entrepreneurs in Tech podcast. And if you're joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.